Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is 5 o'clock on a Tuesday as usual, and we're here in the studio of PRsonalities, the show, with your host, Konstantine Polyakov, and a very, very special guest, Mr. David Foy of AGENCY59. David is a director for AGENCY59 Direct Marketing Division.
Yeah, partner, owner.
Partner, owner.
Yeah.
And we brought David, luckily we brought David today at the beginning of the year 2018 to help all of us understand what's happened in the past, what's happening today, and what's about to happen in the future in this ever-developing industry. David, thank you for coming.
My pleasure, and happy birthday.
Thank you. I guess it is my birthday. I keep forgetting. David, you've been in AGENCY59 for quite some time. So what I wanted to do is just, I did a little bit of introduction. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna let you correct me a little bit.
Sure.
And introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Introduce AGENCY59 and just give us just a little bit of how we started.
Okay. So I've been in the industry for about 33 years. Started in 1985, and I'm one of the few people I know that went to university and actually said to themselves, "I want to be a direct marketer when I grow up." So it's very unusual. Most people want to get into advertising, but they kind of fall into direct marketing because it's something that's not so sexy. It's far more analytical. It's not as necessarily considered the sexiest or creative element of advertising. But I got into it, and the reason I got into it, was very, very interesting. I had a prof who said to me, "Would you rather be a small fish in a big pond or a big fish in a small pond?" And what he meant by that is if you get into niche marketing, into a specialty, then you can quickly learn and grow in the business and do very, very well for yourself. And in fact, that's what happened. By the age of 34, I was the youngest president of an advertising agency in Toronto.
Wow.
So very fortunate to take his sage advice. I started off in the industry at an agency, Canada's largest agency at the time in '85, which was Vickers and Benson. It's no longer in the advertising world. They sold out to a global company. I went client side for about a year and a half, then went back into direct marketing at Ogilvy and Mather. Spent the next 5 years or so going through a number of different agencies until I found AGENCY59. And AGENCY59 is a terrific agency that's a full-service agency that's been around since 1959. Essentially, it was founded by Dalton Camp and Hugh Segal and Norm Atkins, who were political junkies, backroom strategists for the Conservative Party. They started this ad agency, and in 1985, when they retired, they wanted to give back to the community, so they started a division within their agency that focuses primarily on helping and supporting the not-for-profit organizations to leverage a full-service ad agency. And that's what I'm working on now. I do a lot of not-for-profit work. But when I came into the agency in 1997, I grew it from working on primarily for not-for-profit and public sector work. And I brought in a lot of for-profit business. And over the years, I've grown the business to be very diversified. So if you look at our agency, we're really a full-service agency with a client roster that's what I like to call a mirrored reflection of the Canadian economy. We've got everything from manufacturing to automotive to technology to financial services. It's really a very diversified group.
Actually, speaking of which, Brand, I think we were planning to go into this a little bit later, but could you just bring on screen quickly the list of brands that we have? So we have, like you said, everything from Mercedes-Benz to Government of Canada.
Right, to TELUS, to SiriusXM, to Foresters Financial, and to some charities, Mad Canada,
amazing,
BC, SPCA, so wide group of clients.
So, so let's just take a step back a little bit. So what I think people don't often understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, but people don't understand direct marketing as in what exactly does it entail. Like people think of marketing advertising as almost the same thing, right? And so explain a little bit to our audience.
Sure.
What does direct marketing really mean, and what is really the difference between direct marketing or brand marketing or even advertising?
Great question. So the simple answer is this: brand advertising or general advertising is specifically about generating awareness.
Mm-hmm.
It's about building a brand, creating a voice and a tone for a particular company or a product or service. With direct marketing or direct response, and a lot of people use the expression database marketing these days, but direct marketing is all about basically going for the jugular, trying to generate a sale or a lead. So essentially, yes, we do create awareness through our communication, but our primary focus and objective is to actually generate a sale or a lead or a form of a response.
Okay, well, that's actually a very good summary of that. So that's actually very, very well said, because again, like I said, I think I myself had a bit of a misunderstanding about the difference in brand marketing and direct marketing, because I felt that, again, marketing is all about getting the voice out there, but it's also about getting the response.
Yeah, and I will tell you, in today's world, it's really evolved. I mean, if we looked at the industry about 10, 15 years ago, where there were really distinct disciplines of brand advertising and direct marketing, what we've seen is a blending over the years of brand advertising and direct response coming together, because clients need to be able to justify their advertising spend. They want to be able to measure the advertising they're doing. So essentially, they're asking that most of the direct or most of the advertising or communication include some form of call to action, some form of tracking device in their communication. So whether it's a 1-800 number or a URL, we essentially are creating what I call brand response communications. So it's a real blending
of the two.
Of the two, yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I think that's really a topic that's hot for every entrepreneur, every business that's trying to get out there, because if you're not able to track and you're not able to understand where your business is coming from, it's very hard to understand where to put your efforts into.
Exactly. I mean, you have a finite budget and you want to be able to spend it wisely, so be able to track, measure, learn, and adjust as you communicate.
Love it. So the big word today for social media managers and as marketers is call to action.
Right.
Right. And so we kind of touched on that a little bit. So direct marketing has been using these calls to actions pretty much this entire time. Could you describe a little bit more about types of call to actions?
Okay. So simply define, the call to action is a directive telling the individual viewer or reader or prospect or customer exactly what you want them to do in your communication. So in many cases, we ask people to go online, visit a particular URL, call 1-800, or go to your local retailer. Okay, so that gives you a broad perspective of what a call to action is. Call to actions are incredibly important because you want to make your communications, your advertising, what I like to call idiot-proof. You want to be able to give people specific instructions of what to do in order to take advantage of a particular offer or a particular service or product.
Okay, so I guess really and truly, especially in today's world, I mean, call to action is everything, right? So I know that when we were building our website, for example, for our reestablishing business, it was all about building a funnel.
Yes.
So as the person lands on a website, they don't have to think.
That's right.
The thinking is out the door. So it's literally leading them through this funnel of what you want them to do, and then harvesting that into your database, and then be able to remarket and remarket and remarket all over again.
Correct.
And so that's, again, I guess, one of the things. So the AGENCY59 provides the consulting service of developing these tactics.
Yeah, I mean, as a full-service agency, we'll develop the strategy around how to create that particular funnel, what we want to be able to track, what we want people to do. So we'll develop the strategy, we'll develop the creative, we'll actually develop the execution itself, whether it's digital execution or print execution or broadcast execution. And then once that communication is out in the marketplace, our job is then to track every metric and be able to report back, do the analysis for you, and then feedback through a constant loop, recommendations on what to do next, refining your strategy constantly. And that's what direct response communications do for you.
Very interesting. So again, that's again huge in 2017. I think everybody,
and even in 2018.
In 2018, and 2019 and 2020, and they're forward. I mean, I think that, again, as a business, I mean, our business is relatively new, I'd say about 5 years in business, but I think any business that's even newer than that, I think trying to concentrate on making sure that all your efforts lead towards some sort of a direct response is probably the best tactic you can build around.
Yeah, it's the safest way to effectively build your business and manage it, be fiscally responsible about your advertising spend.
Because then you can count the conversions.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the different metrics we want to capture, it's not just a sale or a lead. We want to be able to measure things like the cost per acquisition or the cost per lead. We want to be able to measure ROI. We want to be able to measure click-through rates. And all of those elements, there's a dozen different metrics we can capture depending on the type of communication we're doing, whether it's out-of-home communication, in billboards, transit, etc., or digital online communications.
It's almost like a science within a science. You have all these small sub-sciences within this big science of.
Well, the beautiful thing about today's communications, and is that, and this is why I got into direct marketing 33 years ago.
I still can't believe it's been 33 years. You look like you were.
You're on my Christmas card list next year because of what you just said. But why I got into it was because I was searching for, quite frankly, an industry where I could use both the left hemisphere of my brain and my right hemisphere of my brain. It's both analytical and creative. And that's what advertising, allows me to do. But specifically, the direct marketing side of the business allowed me to really, use my analytical side. The creative side is fantastic. I'm not a great copywriter, I'm not a great art director, but I can think strategically, and I know I can evaluate creative effectively. And working with creative teams, that gives me that kind of space to play in. So yeah, it's great from the standpoint of being able to analyze everything. It's very scientific. And if you weren't leveraging that today, you've been left behind. And those agencies that haven't picked up on that have gone out of business.
That's very true.
Yeah.
And so actually, this is a part that I love. So you've gone such a long way from those 33 years being in the industry. And so you point something out, which is that you may not be the best art director, may not be the best at this and that, but you are good at certain things. And so I guess the purpose of this question is it's very important to concentrate on your strengths. Right? And so developing yourself throughout those 33 years, I bet you there were times when you had to be the art director and you had to be this and you had to be that.
Sure. I mean, especially when you start off in the industry and you're working with a smaller team, you're definitely doing a lot of things.
Other hat, third hat.
But I will tell you, and this is the secret of my success, is that I've surrounded myself with people who are a lot more talented, who are a lot smarter than I am in many respects. I know what my strengths are, just as you know what your strengths are, but you've gone out and you've hired a team of people who are far more qualified in aspects of the business than you are, and you leverage them to help build a core group of expertise. And that's what your clients are hiring you for, and that's what our clients hire us for. So I go out and I hire art directors and copywriters, account managers, production people, database people, digital people who are so much more talented in those areas than I will ever be. But that's not my role. My role is to put the team together, put strategy in front of the client, and build the business.
I guess, again, it's relationships, right? It's dealing with client relationships and making sure that you can deliver. That's one, and you can keep them happy. Because ultimately, it's all about maintaining that database of clients that they love your work, they love working with you. And that's one of the first two truth bombs that I wanted to drop today. And this one thing is that delegate, right? So you have to always make sure that you're only concentrating your 99% of the effort on the things that you're absolutely greatest at, and that there's nobody who can be better than you at that. And the things that the rest 90% of the work has to be going to those that are more talented, that have more time to allocate towards those tasks, so that you are just this ecosystem that works itself. Yeah,
you're managing that. You're managing that ecosystem, and you're the conductor, if you will. You've got an orchestra in front of you, and you're the conductor.
Love it. And that's one thing as well, right? And so I love that, and that would probably be the very first tip I would say. So a lot of the people in the audience, a lot of the entrepreneurs who are watching, I think that is one of the things that we've been hearing over and over and over again, and this is so very important in building a business. And as you said, over the course of the 33 years, you had to wear multiple different hats, but it is understanding of what you're best at and being your self-awareness of what you're best at that allows you to excel exponentially.
Yeah, for sure.
Exponentially. Beautiful. Well, actually, why don't we take a look at something? So we have one commercial that we were going to kind of briefly put up online. So this one is for, would you help me remind me what that is?
So this is one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this this ad, this what I call a brand response or a direct response television ad. It's for Amnesty International. And I want you to turn your watches back about a year ago when the Syrian refugee crisis was at its peak, and in particular the Aleppo crisis in Syria was happening back in the fall and winter of 2016. And Amnesty International asked us to help generate some funds to help support the cause of what was going on in Aleppo. And so we put together a campaign leveraging creative out of the UK and then hiring talent here in Canada, George Strampolopoulos, as our voiceover.
Oh, interesting.
He's been a very generous supporter of Amnesty International. But essentially, we were testing calls to action. And, when we talked a little bit earlier about the importance of call to action, one of the things that we do in direct marketing, and it's our mantra, it's test, test, test. Just like retail is location, 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 ours is test, test, test. And so what we were trying to do is figure out what is the best call to action we could use in our creative in order for people to maximize their interest and their support of Amnesty International. Mm-hmm. So the ad that Brandon is going to put up is actually an example of the winning call to action. We were testing text to support, we were testing take action, and we were testing give to support. And this winning call to action was give to support. Give to support by calling 1-800 or visiting Amnesty.
And again, this is a very worthy cause, right? So there was a lot of tragedy that was happening in the span of very little time, really.
Yeah. Well, and we tested that. We literally were out in a month, and we knew within the first week, essentially, how effective those 3 different call to actions were. So once we knew what the most successful call to action was, we stopped the other 2, we rolled out the winning call to action, and we maximized the number of responses and donations.
Wow, that's actually a very good trick because, really and truly, I don't think a lot of people do that because really and truly, if you don't compare, how do you know if you're being most effective?
That's right. You can't go by intuition. If there's one thing I've learned over the 33 years in the business, that nothing is intuitive in this business. Just because your gut tells you think that something's going to perform in a specific way, it's usually the opposite.
It's typically the ones that you don't expect to perform extraordinarily that end up giving you everything.
Exactly.
I love it. Brendan, could you please throw that on the screen? Yes, we will have the archive video a little bit later. So that you can get sound on?
No, I can't get sound on.
Not to worry. I've told the backstory, but that's the lesson learned. Is that
why don't you just put is it going right now?
It is going right now.
Yeah, so essentially it's the final version. This is the final version, right?
Yes, that's
This is the one that the call to action was
give.
Give now.
Yeah.
And that is a very immediate call to action.
Yeah, and it's very specific. That's when we talk about making it idiot-proof for your prospects, you want to be able to tell them exactly what you want them to do so that there's no guessing of what they need to do.
Don't make me think.
Right.
What were some of the other call to actions you used on that campaign, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, we had text.
Text now?
Text now, or text to donate, and we had take action now.
And give now was the one.
Give now was the one. Take action now is a very effective one, typically for Amnesty. Mm-hmm. But when they use that expression, it's often for people to sign a petition as opposed to make a cash donation. So it's
Well, I guess it's it's pretty much encrypted in the message.
It's a softer ask.
I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very, very good. I mean, to be honest, that really resonates with me.
Yeah.
Right. Give now. I want to give now as well.
Good. I'll take your cash.
On the way out, guys. So that was a little bit about one of the recent. When was this launched?
That was launched back in 2016.
2016, a couple of years back, and so you've been mentioning a little bit about about the company and the philosophy behind it.
Yeah.
What I wanted to quickly chat on is you mentioned this is one of the non-for-profit organizations that you guys currently work with.
Yes.
And so you said when you first came into the business, you guys were doing a lot of non-for-profit.
Yeah, when I first started in '97 with AGENCY59, they were fundamentally the response division was really geared towards working with not-for-profits as well as some public sector government accounts. And my background prior to that, coming to the agency, was really working on for-profit accounts, financial services, manufacturing, automotive, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's what I wanted to bring into the agency to diversify the business within the agency, because it just makes it a healthier company.
Of course, right? You don't want to be putting all your apples in one bucket.
Yeah. Because
if they go rotten in one bucket, you got another.
But I will tell you this. In the 21 years that I've been working at AGENCY59, if there's one thing I've learned is that not-for-profits live and die by the database. And they know how to work that database, and they are brilliant direct marketers because out of necessity.
Yeah.
Whereas brand marketers, for the most part, are fantastic at strategy and building their brand. They're not as typically strong in database marketing and leveraging, understanding testing, measuring, tracking, and then segmenting in order to do true direct marketing. Fundraisers are unbelievably good at it.
Very interesting. This, again, very much resonates with me. Again, being a commercial business that is for-profit and is in the business of helping people, get out of debt, credit, and mortgages and all that stuff. I would agree. I think we're very concentrated on building the brand and a lot less concentrating on working that database.
Right. And one of the things that we often at AGENCY59 try to do for our clients is that we end up kind of bringing those two disciplines together, the database marketing and the strategic planning from the for-profit world and the not-for-profit world together, so that no matter what clients we're working with, whether it be a for-profit or a not-for-profit client, we're able to give them the expertise from both sides of the
amazing
thing. So anyway, it's...
I'm taking those, guys, so it should be you.
Let me know when you're ready for a question.
Actually, there's a question?
Audience question.
Would you mind?
No, I love it.
Bring it on.
Audience question from Jonathan Donahue. What's the best marketing between, I assume he means between brand and direct, to use for any small business, lowest budget?
Okay.
So lowest budget, the best approach, it's a great question, because if you're just starting off in business as an entrepreneur and you don't have large budgets, but you need to get your name out. Typically, what we're finding now, a great entry point is search engine marketing.
Really?
Yeah, and the reason being is, think about the natural buying cycle. What happens with a consumer, whether they be, an individual or a business, looking to find a product or service? The first thing they do is they go online, Google search, right? And that is, you look at paid search and you look at various forms of other searches that will help you get your name out there, get highly ranked. So spend a little bit of money on paid search and make sure you're bidding for words or phrases that will certainly attract as many eyeballs as possible, so that you get onto page 1 of Google.
Interesting. And something else that's very related to this, you said Google, which is now pretty much an acronym for going and searching things.
90 some odd % of searches are Google. So
would you bother going on maybe Bing advertising, Yahoo?
Absolutely, Yahoo and Bing for sure. If you want to capture, cast a wider net, you definitely do. But if you have a limited budget, you go Google.
What about demographics?
It's Google is so broad.
We have a follow-up on that.
Yeah.
He's watching live.
Yeah.
He says that On you said something about the keywords.
Yeah.
How do you determine, like, would you choose your keyword based on, like, the best keyword's obviously most expensive?
Yes.
And he's working with a low budget.
Right.
Where's the
You have,
happy medium?
yeah, you have to find a balance. You have to invest in some more expensive words, more bids. That's fine, but then try to this is where a good search SEO SEM specialist will help you. I'm not an SEO SEM specialist, but I will tell you I've got great people on staff who do this. They will come up with a list of words, phrases, misspellings of words and phrases.
Amazing, love it.
Typical things where people will type in, and it depends on the category that you're up against. But look at what other people are buying and bidding on, and look for the gaps.
Very clever.
Yeah.
I hope that answered the question.
Yeah.
And very, very interesting. I guess the reason I wasn't even mentioning other search engines is just somehow in my mind I have it said that the only people who would be using Bing are those that have Microsoft computers and they're just too lazy to download Google, and it's probably people in the age of 60.
Yeah, but Microsoft computers are still the majority on most Office desktops.
That's very true. But do they have Bing? Or do they have somebody come in and install that Google toolbar?
Yeah, you're right.
All right. I think if you have somebody over the age of 60 that you're trying to target,
yeah,
chances are if they have Microsoft, and they probably don't even understand what the freaking difference is, so they just go in and they just type it and that's
search,
it.
Yeah.
Right. Again, perspective, but I love that. I love the little token here on the idea of misspelling.
Yeah.
Because it's so common, right? Even just to type in Google wrong, you will often get a page that looks like Google and it will maybe behave in certain ways.
Even your company name or your company product or service, whatever that is, some people misspell it if it's a complicated.
All the time.
So feel free to bid on those misspells.
And I'm going to guess there obviously is a lot of tools, and we're not going to get into that you can look up through Google. I'm sure, well, as far as I know, I know that Google provides so much support and so much in their Google Analytics and their AdWords that allow you to target these things very, very specific to what you're trying to achieve.
Right. The other, just to go back to his question, because it's a great question. Video is a medium which is so important in today's...
Video is king.
Right. You're developing content, and content provides you with thought leadership. It allows you to tell your story in a greater amount of time and space. It gives you that breathing room to tell the full, complete story. And it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. In fact, what is happening here today, right now, is that I'm being videotaped. It's going out live, but Konstantine now has content that can live on in his site.
Very true.
For a long, long time. So, you don't have to spend a lot, and video tends to attract a lot of eyeballs.
And I also think that we briefly spoke about it earlier, but I think video advertising, as in going to YouTube and getting that spot, that 10, 20, 30-second clip in between before the videos.
A true view.
That is still, I think, the cheapest way of advertising.
Yeah, now I will say this. TrueView is very effective when you're trying to build awareness. It's not a great lead or sales generation tool.
Not a good direct marketing
tool.
No,
it's a great awareness. But again, when you're doing an integrated campaign where you want to have some air wars and some ground war activity, TrueView and broadcast are very effective for building awareness. So don't dismiss it just because it may not generate all the leads for you. It's building awareness, and then if you do some search and you do other forms of banner advertising, which can be very inexpensive depending on your media budget, then you can create an effective integrated campaign.
So really, I guess what we're talking about is omni-marketing, right? We're trying to omni-market every channel possible, be everywhere and everything at once.
Yeah, and then depending on your industry. Go ahead, you have a question?
Yeah. I was going to cut in with something that one of our previous guests said, that omni-channel isn't just all the channels on the internet.
That's right. It's all mediums. So what's important here is that if you have, again, a limited budget, and if you've got a niche product or service where you're not selling chewing gum, you're selling specific
creditor establishing.
Exactly. You're not casting a wide net. So you can use other direct marketing, direct response tools, such as direct mail, postcards, very inexpensive postcards where you're driving people to a particular call to action, whether it's online, into a retail establishment, or just to write back so that you can capture data, information, and you can follow up with that
Do
individual.
you still find that is still a very current model in 2018 though? Because I will be honest with you, we've done a couple of those direct mailing campaigns that we did out of the office. I mean, we didn't have a Agency 59 working on it when we were planning it, but we had an interesting idea. When we were sending out, it was, I think we were before Christmas a few years ago. And so for my partner, who is an ex-banker of 70, he's 70 years old, and so we're trying to reach out to all his old customers and the old referral sources. And we did something interesting. We did a crossword puzzle about him, that only people that know him, right, people that done business with him, where he worked and the thing that he likes, like what's his favorite baseball team kind of a thing.
Sure.
And we sent it out to all the different sources and people that we had on our list, which was like hundreds. And the idea was that if you were to get it right, there was a small gift for you in the end.
Okay.
And so
the reason it didn't work, as much as you think
that was a good idea,
is it's complicated. It's not easy. It's not intuitive.
It's a lot of work.
And it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And so the secret of doing any direct mail is you make it barrier-free. And what I mean by barrier-free, don't make somebody go get a stamps to return a reply envelope. Make sure it's postage paid replied, right?
Yeah.
Envelopes. So here's the thing. Direct mail, despite the fact that it's 2018, we live in a digital-first world, in today's world, it's almost innovative again because two things. One, when was the last time you received personalized mail at home that's written to you specifically, other than a bill? Okay?
Not much.
Not much. Look at your email inbox.
Oh, God.
It's filled with junk email, okay? You're deleting more often than you are opening up an email. At home now, or in the office when you receive mail, it's so few pieces that it gets your attention. Now remember, it's tactile, so you can touch it, you can take the time, you can read it. There's been some interesting studies done recently through neuromarketing science where comprehension and retention rates of physical paper is actually significantly higher than digital.
Oh, interesting.
So what the experts are saying, and I completely buy into this, is that if you can use a combination of digital, online, and offline communications, where you start with online, follow up with offline, you will maximize your investments. So I think that's the way to go.
So direct mail is not dead?
No. In fact, print is not dead. It's evolving.
Really?
In fact, print is using and leveraging augmented reality these days.
Oh, yeah, that's a big hot topic.
So take advantage of all the technology out there that you can. And it doesn't have to be expensive.
So I think that was quite a few tips for Jonathan Donahue and the audience. I think these are all great tips, right? So everybody who is interested in starting up a new business or is just spinning wheels in where they are right now, I think these are all great tips on how to get out there and how to maximize your results.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to give anybody some specific tips, the first thing I would suggest to you, if you're new to this and you're interested in testing out direct response communications, first thing I would do is go to other small businesses, people that you're comfortable talking to, and ask them what they've done in this area. And those that have done it and had success, ask them about it, look at the work they've done, and shamelessly steal the techniques they're using, okay? Because there's nothing new under the sun. The second thing I would tell you to do is don't spend a lot of money. The beautiful thing about direct marketing is that you can test. And because you can test, you can take a smaller sample, 10% of your audience, of the total universe of your audience, and invest in them, okay? Do a test, and whether it's your call to actions, whether it's your creative, whether it's your offer that you're providing, and go out and don't spend a lot of money. Learn from it and roll out what seems to work. And the last thing I would suggest, and this would go for you too, is that don't try to do it yourself. Don't think, despite the fact that you're a creative individual, hire the experts, okay? Again, tell the agency, if you go to an agency, or go to a consultant, a freelance consultant, freelance copywriter, or freelance art director, and tell them what your budget is, and they'll come back to you and let you know what they can do for you. But get experts who've been doing this for years, who know the techniques, the rules, the tools that work, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I don't. I definitely agree. I mean, if you are a plumber, you're not necessarily very good at marketing. I mean, if you're in credit or establishing, you're also necessarily good at marketing.
Right.
But if you're in marketing, you better be good at it.
Yeah. But if you go to the people who are trained in the discipline.
That's right.
Yeah.
Professionals.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're trying to get best result for best bang for your buck, I think spending money on spending money on search. What is the word I'm looking for? On keywords without knowing anything about keywords,
Yeah.
I feel you're going to spend a ton of money and probably not get very much out of it.
Yeah, and again, you can test it. You can go out for a week or two, spend some money on it, find out what the results are, and move and refine from there.
And so even if it's a small business starting out, would it be a good idea to get in touch with an Agency 59, or would you be looking for a smaller
Well,
fish?
you know what? I would go to independent as opposed to a full-service agency because you're stuck paying agency fees, right?
I understand. Yeah.
So you want to go to somebody who can, and I'll tell you who you can often go to graduating students from colleges and universities who specialize
Very
in
true.
this. And give them an opportunity to build their portfolio.
Shine, yeah.
But they've just come out of school learning the best techniques
Today. Love it.
Yeah,
That is a great tip.
yeah.
That is probably, I'm kind of excited about tomorrow. All right. So that we talked a little bit about the Agency 59 and I guess also a few different topics from that we had. It was spinned off of the questions that we got from Jonathan Donahue just a few minutes ago. And so what I want to take a step back a little bit is on your team. And so we spoke a little bit about your role within the team. And so something I wanted to learn a little bit more about, I don't know enough about it. So consultants and other agencies and other professionals. You said that you guys execute certain things, like you said you probably could put together the website with the call to action and everything else, but you're not necessarily a web developer or a web developing company.
No, we are a web developing company.
Okay.
But we have all the talent in-house for that. I've hired that talent. But for instance, let's say somebody wanted to leverage telemarketing.
Okay.
Okay. I'm not a telemarketer. I don't have staff that do telemarketing. I would go out to a third-party telemarketing firm, and I would leverage those people who specialize in that to work with me and my clients on building a program and strategy around how to best leverage telemarketing. Same thing when it comes to out-of-home communication, whether it be billboards or transit. We can come up with a creative, but we have to work with third-party vendors who do the specialized printing for those particular.
That's right. So really, the extent of your team is not just the people within the office, it's the ability to utilize everything.
Exactly. You really want to build a pool of resources, of specialists that help fulfill all manner of production or media, etc. Yeah.
So collaboration
is key. And it's interesting, collaboration just doesn't start internally within your office. Collaboration starts with you and your clients. That's the most important collaboration because you want to have a relationship with a client where you're building trust.
That's right.
Okay? This is a people business that we're in. And so what you want to be able to do is get feedback and input from your clients that's honest, that's genuine, that's timely, that you're not struggling to develop strategies or ideas that won't fit within their agenda. So by having them provide you with a lot of background information, research on their company, etc., you can leverage all of that information and provide them with great information. And at times, clients are going to ask you to work with other agencies. So in other words, our agency have been asked, we've been asked on several occasions to work with other brand agencies or other media agencies that are not part of our agency. And so you learn how to play nice in the creative sandbox.
How does that work, though?
Well, it works, collaboration involves 4 key things. Time, it involves expectations, setting expectations. It involves process, and most importantly, it involves tools, business tools. So what that means is that we set out the time that we agreed to meet on a regular basis, whether it be daily, weekly, or monthly. We set out expectations up front in terms of whose roles and responsibilities are what, and who's to do what jobs, and who's not to do specific things, because that involves money for each agency.
Time
and then,
money.
And then, of course, the process. You know, who's the lead, and who's going to be making who's setting up the meetings, who's going to be calling the clients when things need to be presented. How are things presented collectively together versus one agency taking a lead over another. And then using business tools such as Google Docs and other, TELUS Business Connect or other forms of Microsoft software that allow you to connect with each other, collaborate. Yeah, collaboration tools are so important in today's world. So
beautiful. So really and truly, I guess in 2018, it is a very big part of what you do.
Absolutely. You can't escape it. I mean, a lot of companies may have remote workers, right? So people who work out of their home but have to connect with the home office or other regional offices.
It's very true.
Yeah. So,
wow. This is a very, very large topic too, right? Because I mean, we can go on about collaboration and most efficient ways of doing it and the best practices. I mean, I don't think we have enough time on the show to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have more questions about that and you want to learn about the way AGENCY59 works, I think that David Foy will be happy to help.
Sure.
Something else I wanted to touch on today is also the ever-changing industry, right? So your industry has changed and flipped over about a million times from the last 33 years.
Yeah.
And it's always pushing the boundaries, and it's always looking, like everybody's always looking to see what else they can do creatively to put themselves forward above everybody else. And so I think you guys did great over the course of the years, 33 years. I've seen some of the ads that you guys put out. I think they're brilliant, especially that the insurance commercial I was talking to you earlier.
Insurance Brokers of Canada.
That's right. 6 seconds, boom.
These bumper ads, banner ads, essentially the line is, it opens up on a line that says, insurance is boring, ... And then it says until, and all of a sudden there's no sound in the first 3 seconds. The last 3 seconds are of a car smashing into another car, and it's a loud screeching boom. So insurance is boring until this happens.
I love it.
Or insurance is boring until you see this house inflamed and the loud roar of flames. Or insurance is boring until something is flooded and you hear the rushing water. Those are moments that kind of jolt you. And that's what you're trying to do. We're trying to jolt people's attention, particularly in digital banner ads, where it becomes wallpaper now on most websites.
And is that so from the 80s and the 90s and 2000s, I mean, have the ads become shorter?
Well, people's attention spans have become much shorter, to the point where we're competing with so many different options for people to...
Distractions.
Yeah, the distractions are unbelievable. People walk around with cell phones walking in front of traffic every day, so you've got to jolt them.
So speaking of evolving technology, so social media, from direct mailing to TV to internet to social media.
Yeah.
So this is quite a challenge, I bet, just keeping up, right? And so how did AGENCY59 adapt over the years? What are some of the things that you guys had to look into over the course of the past 33 years?
Yeah, well, so, the agency evolves. A smart agency will evolve by doing a number of things. One, constantly being curious. Having a curious mind is critically important in the marketing world, because it allows you to stay ahead of the curve. In other words, you want to find out what's the latest trends that are coming. You want to find out what the latest technologies are out there in order for you to create or take your ideas, your big ideas, and execute them in an innovative way. But what's really important, quite frankly, is just to hire smart people who are as curious as you are. So everybody you hire should be as curious as you are.
One step ahead.
Yeah.
It's always being one step ahead.
Yeah.
And I think that's applicable to every business out there, right? If you're not looking forward to what's next, it's very easy to get romantic about where you get your business from.
Right.
How do you do your business, right?
Yeah. If you're not moving forward, you're falling behind.
That's right.
And so what's important is to go out, join associations, industry associations, talk to the people in your industry, see what they're doing, read a lot of articles, watch a lot of videos, sign up for newsletters, take advantage of white papers that are out there and being offered to you for free.
Running business is a 24-hour job. I mean, really and truly. If you're trying to expand, you're trying to grow, you're trying to do all these things, you really got to be keeping your eyes open for everything.
Yeah.
And I mean everything, everything, everything. And it's not just applicable to marketing and advertising. I think it's applicable to everything, whether it be real estate, whether it be investments, whether it be blockchain, whether it be programming, all these different things that are constantly developing. If you're not on top of it, you are behind.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely something to take away from that. And one other thing that also we haven't touched much upon, but I had it in my plan in my show Bible, is live events.
Yeah.
And that's something that I also thought we would bring up as an additional token for Jonathan Donahue, our fan here. And it has to do with live events and how we can leverage that to our advantage. And I think a lot of the newer businesses should really be taking advantage of that more and more, as much as they can really, right? Because that's, you have a chance to leave a live impression on businesses or individuals.
Yeah.
And so what are some of the things you have to say on that?
Well, I love live events. I mean, it's funny. Back in 2000, I started an event division within our agency called Brand Tonic. And it only lasted 3 years, and I'll tell you why. Because in 2003, you may not remember this. You may not remember this, kid. But 2003, we had SARS here in Toronto. And SARS basically, you know, the World Health Organization put a warning out to the rest of the world that Toronto would be a semi-dangerous place to visit.
Really?
CNN had our mayor on at the time, and it was just a bit of a business disaster for the city. But essentially, nobody was coming to Toronto to host events or conferences at that time. So I shut my division, that events division down. But one of the things I learned very quickly in working on events was that it gives an organization an opportunity to present itself in a very unique, bold, dynamic way, because you're able to meet face-to-face with prospects, with customers, with the people you want to do business with, to tell your story, to be able to showcase and demonstrate the benefits of your product, service, or organization. And you do it in such a personal way. You feed people in many cases. You allow them to drink. You know, you break bread with them. It's very intimate in one way. Even though you might have hundreds or 1,000 people there, your staff can actually engage with those individuals. So it's very powerful, and it's a great lead generation tool. It helps. You know, you talk about the business funnel, the sales funnel. You're able to move people from the awareness level down to the interest level, down to the desire level, until they finally take action. And that's pushing people down that funnel.
Live events are great.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that I think for myself, we did really great with live events. Whenever we go to any events at all, I'm a bit of a social butterfly. I think you almost have to be.
That's the key. And it's interesting, you know, often a company will take 2 or 3 people to a luncheon or to an event. And the one thing I've observed over the years is that those 3 or 4 people from that company will go together in a pack, and they will stay together throughout that entire event, rather than spreading out and networking and talking to people.
It's very true, yeah.
And you want to be able to, you know, as soon as you get there, split up, and we'll see you at the end. And
it's almost like you have to arrive at a different time, you know. Like, let's just not plan it. Everybody has whatever time you want, and just go. And so I definitely agree. I find that when I feel like when we were starting out and going out to different events, we were kind of keeping a little bit in the pack. But then those times when we didn't go in a pack, that really pushed you to go out and say, hey, what are you doing?
Well, that's right. You had nobody to talk to other than yourself if you didn't.
So you make the best of it.
Yeah, and then the key is to, again, when I talk about being curious, I really mean that. You want to be able to talk to people and ask people, who are you? Where are you from? Why are you here? Genuinely show some interest in the other individuals in front of you, to talk to them, get to know them, and that will build a great rapport, and that hopefully will generate new business for you. So that's really important.
Guys, that was another great tip, I'd say. I mean, there's been just so many different tips. I hope everybody's taking notes. And I'm sure I will be going over this video later on, taking my own notes.
Is someone filming this?
David, this has been really great. I'm just going to say that how we're not on time. We're coming close to the end of it. How about this? As a tradition, for the show, what we typically like to do is before the show comes to an end, we like to give our guest a few minutes just to give maybe 1, 2, 3 tips. I mean, there's been so many great tips.
Yeah.
Why don't we kind of summarize it into one punch?
Okay.
And let's deliver it to the audience, and let's leave that for them to think about,
Okay.
execute, and get more business and grow.
Okay, so marketing is really about understanding who you are and believing in what you stand for, really. And so what's important for you to do is to package that in such a way that you can communicate it easily, effectively, no matter where you are, whether you're at a cocktail party or at a business social event, or if you're putting together a direct mail package or an email out to potential prospects. So what I would tell you to do is this. Don't be afraid to start somewhere. If you have very little money, go out and talk to your colleagues, your peers out in the industry who are doing it and doing it well, the people that you might admire. Create what I call a small advisory team.
I like that.
Friends of yours that you can meet on a monthly basis. You take them out for a coffee or a lunch and you pick their brains. You suggest, this is what my opportunities are, or here are some of the challenges, and let them give you direct feedback. Okay, so that's important, especially
Beautiful.
around your marketing activities. Then the next thing I would do is say, look, I have a limited budget. You don't have to spend a lot. Direct marketing is about being able to test. So do some small tests. And when I talk about tests, I really refer to, there's creative testing, there's offer testing, and there's target testing. And target is your mailing lists or the lists that you're using to reach out to prospects, or even your own customers. And then finally, let experts help you. And the experts can be
It's very true.
freelance specialists,
Yeah.
or they can be student graduates who have just spent the last 3 or 4 years learning this craft. Take advantage of that. It shouldn't cost you a lot. Now, if you have larger budgets, feel free to call me at Agency59.
And I will attest to that.
Yeah.
David, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
It's really been just a blast. I think there's been so much content, good content to take away from this video that I think I'll be watching it over and over for the next month. There's
Thank you.
great content, great topics, and great
Glad to
things to know about marketing and advertising. And I don't think, again, people understand enough about the difference. And I think rewatching this video will help me to remind myself about the differences and help everybody else to get out there and execute well.
Great.
Right? And execution is everything. And so once again, this was another great episode of PRsonalities with our guest, David Foy of Agency59. Thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
And this was your host, Konstantine Polyakov. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the year 2018. We got a lot more content coming. This is just the beginning. Stay tuned. Oh, by the way, follow Agency59 on social. I forgot about that. Facebook?
Agency59. Website, agency59.ca.
Okay. And Twitter, Instagram?
Twitter, Instagram, we're there.
I think you guys just hired a whole bunch of interns, too, for your social division.
Well, we didn't hire, the interns are there. We often let our interns take a crack at running our social. We have people on staff who do social on a regular
Beautiful.
basis. But yeah, I love the fact that, these young people have grown up in born into the social media
Ecosystem,
world.
yeah.
So who better?
Beautiful. I can really respect that.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
That's beautiful. So guys, thank you very much for watching once again. Agency59 on Facebook, Instagram, just search all the social medias, guys. Just find it. And as always, the Pocket Broker, PRsonalities, guys, follow, subscribe, share, and like. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you in a couple of weeks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching. That was PRsonalities. And we hope to see you in 2 weeks when we get to shoot yet another episode of this show. Meanwhile, you should probably like, share, and follow all of our social media accounts. That would be Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, where we will be posting a slightly better version of this exact same episode. See you soon. Bye. What are you doing here? Who is producing the show?